This week on Hooligan Nation, did the Catman record his solo album in a Las Vegas lounge? Have the Hooligans come up with a way to listen to Peter's solo album without it ending in disappointment? Wonder how this will turn out. Don't forget, you matter to me. Stay tuned, because you got
nothing to lose.
Meow.
You wanted the best? Well, they retired. So you got two dudes in a garage.
Talking KISS.
Welcome back to Hooligan Nation, a KISS-Centric podcast. I'm Anthony.
And I'm Rocco.
And we're here for another exciting week. Do you have pet cats or pet dogs?
I pet dog, a couple dogs and cats.
Throw the dogs out, because this week it's all about the cat, man.
Meow.
So before we start that, we have to talk about last week's episode. We have to. The Rock and Roll Hall of Shame, another one of my bucket list items to talk about.
You could have a round table. You can get a lot of opinions about the Hall of Fame, because there's definitely, I think they even have a website dedicated to rock stars that have trashed the Hall of Fame and the way that they judge people.
I think I don't exactly know when they do nominations for the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame, but whenever they do that, we're going to have to do another episode about the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame. I just think there's endless possibilities there also.
Absolutely. And by the way, in the comments, if you want anything that you see that we didn't cover about the Hall of Fame, all opinions are welcome when it comes to that stuff too.
I expect most people agree with the fact that the Hall of Fame is really a Hall of Shame.
Yeah.
Like, musically, I'm sure there's a bunch of people that think certain bands and certain acts should be in that we may or may not agree with. But in total, I think most people would agree there's something really wrong there at the Hall of Fame. You got any news?
It's all old news. I mean, it's stuff like Peter Criss stuff. It's stuff that a lot of KISS fans may already know, but I was, doing my research for this. It's an old Eddie Trunk interview, and he talks about how, in 2004, after they toured, I think the last thing was with Aerosmith, and Peter Criss was talking in an interview how he was honored to play with Aerosmith. And they were wondering, Eddie Trunk basically asked him, what happened? Why did you get fired, or what happened? And Peter Criss just went into, again, this could be a lot of old news for people, but he just went into detail about how his lawyer reached out to KISS. He never got a phone call. And then he only got a response from Paul when he posted on his, I think it was Facebook, when he made a post. Then Paul had called him and kind of disrespected him a lot. He said that he didn't think he could hang anymore, didn't think he could do 2-hour shows. And he basically made a statement that we're looking to do a new KISS. Peter was pretty adamant about how there's no such thing as new KISS if you still keep the same makeup. So it was interesting. I summed up, there was a lot of meat and potatoes in that, but I pretty much summed it up, and I thought it was, he basically said that Paul is was very pompous with his attitude and disrespectful for what, the Catman has meant to meant to KISS. And I could definitely see that. I'm not a hater on Paul, but I could definitely see him being kind of an ass at times with fellow members.
So I got some very cool news for everybody out there that is a KISS fan and hasn't seen or heard this yet. Write down this name. Ken Nardi. His YouTube channel is Frank Ken Stein Creation. Frank Ken Stein Creation. This amazing genius, and I'm 100% convinced he's an amazing genius. He has done something that KISS fans have been waiting for someone to do for almost 50 years. He remixed Hotter Than Hell. And oh my God, It's amazing. It is absolutely amazing. It's not a record. It's not a CD. It's not on Spotify. Like, as far as I know, the only place you can find it is on YouTube, which is unfortunate. If I was KISS or if I was Pop House, I would pay that guy and I would put out a remix. I would put out that remixed version because I can tell you right now, if they put it out, I would absolutely buy it. No questions asked.
Yeah, you sent it to me. I haven't listened to the whole thing because I really want to take my time and listen to it.
Oh,
Because I remember me and you talking about when we did that episode, how there's some really good songs on this album that the producer or the overall production didn't really do it justice.
as amazing as the sound of the remix songs are, he went on Three Sides of the Coin podcast and YouTube channel. For anybody that doesn't know, Three Sides of the Coin is both a podcast and they have a YouTube channel. He went on there about a week ago and they interviewed him. And he goes into great detail explaining how he did it and also explaining why he does it. It's not the only thing he's ever done. On his YouTube channel, there's a lot of different things. Like, one of the cool things he did is he redid the trailer for Kiss Meets the Phantom of the Park. He redid the music. He changed some shots. It's only a trailer, but it's great. Like, I want that dude to redo the whole movie. Like, he did some amazing things with no new product at all. He just moved things around, just changed the sound of a couple things, added a couple songs in, and he made it much more bearable. But he's literally doing this for the fun of it. He was a professional musician at one time. I didn't hear of the band he was in, but he did put out a couple records and that kind of stuff. But he is very much doing this, sounds like, as a full-time job, pretty much. Kind of like somebody else. And he's doing it because someone needs to do it. You have to listen to the interview. It would take me an hour to explain how he does it. It's so much better. Just go to Three Sides of the Coin. They have a YouTube channel. Look, if you're here watching this, you definitely need to go subscribe to Three Sides of the Coin. Like, it's worth the time. It's the three of them, and then it's Ken Nardi. It's a really good interview. They ask really good questions. His explanations are really detailed explanations, and I'm pretty sure if you're anything like me, it should blow your mind, the explanations, like the work that this guy put in.
I'm looking forward to it. I just want to take the time so I can really pay attention to it too, you know?
Yeah, because at least for me, like, I dove in and I was there for a couple hours. Just listening to Hotter Than Hell remixed is an amazing experience. Then when you do that and you go into Kiss Meets the Phantom of the Park trailer, and then there's a couple clips where he redid a couple things on Kiss Meets the Phantom of the Park, just small clips, and then some concerts, and then some live clips. Just amazing what this guy does.
Well, I mean, like I said, a lot of those songs I like a lot. I could see that album competing with Love Gun and Destroyer and some of those other albums with the production value lifted up.
To me, it elevates Hotter Than Hell to be in the ballpark of Destroyer, of Love Gun, of all the great classic Kiss records. I mean, I guess that's opinion. We had and look, we appreciate all the comments, but I had a guy comment last week and tell me that Dynasty is not a disco record. It's a matter of opinion. Dynasty's the disco record to me.
Well, I love that album, and you bust my chops a little bit because of it's a disco album, but it is a disco album. Sure knows something. Trust me, it's definitely a disco album. Um, but it's a good. I like it a lot, but it's
I
definitely a
don't
disco album.
I don't dislike Dynasty. For that matter, I don't dislike Unmasked. But it's a disco sound. I mean, it is. The dead giveaway to me is the drum sound. It's a disco drum sound.
Well, and look at the era it came out. Like I mean, I don't think that they really shied away from that take either. They were trying to try to like fit into the era and try to take advantage of the era that they were in.
Music we're listening to. You got anything?
I mean, I'm still kind of like in the past. I do open mics and stuff like that. So I've been working on a couple songs to do. One of them's by 3 Days Grace. I Hate Everything About You. Good tune. So I've been listening, I guess a little bit of 3 Days Grace, Three Doors Down. I've been listening to, just looking on doing some stuff. But nothing real new. A couple weeks ago, we talked about Linkin Park. I still like that album. I've been listening to that a little bit, or some of those songs. And actually, believe it or not, I listened to Jackal yesterday a little bit.
Did you? What'd you
Yes.
listen to?
The same stuff that I like, that punk song, and Stranded is. I can see why every day you wake up to Stranded, because that is a
Oh,
really good tune.
um, oh my God. So this week for my new music or my music we're listening to, I'm gonna bypass anything I'm listening to, and I just want to say I went to Starland Ballroom in Sayreville on Friday night, and I saw Striper live. I did see Striper. I think it was about 1988 in the Forum at Madison
Wow.
Square Garden. I saw Striper, Loudness, and TNT. I remember it like it was yesterday. We got a really good spot by the bar. We were probably about, we might have been 15 feet away from the stage. And it was very, very, very good. Much better than I expected. Oz Fox was with Striper. For anybody that doesn't know, Oz Fox plays guitar for Striper. He's had, I don't know if I'm sure it's brain cancer, but he's had tumors removed from his brain, I think 2 or 3 times now. Uh, he does not look like he's in great shape. He played the whole concert. He played almost 100, I think it was pretty much about 100% rhythm guitar. He sat in the chair. He did sing backup vocals. Michael Sweet sounded incredible. It's 100% my opinion, but 100% live. Just the way he sings, just how he does it, like it can't be a backing track. That was him. They do the best they can with a stage show. I'm going to put video up somewhere up here. I took video, little clips that there won't be any sound in the video, but I'll put some video up because I kind of appreciated the fact that they did as much of a stage show as they really can. Of course, Robert Sweet has a drum set that is 12 times the size of him. Half the things on the drum set he doesn't even touch throughout the show, but you know, he's a drummer. And since we're going to talk about a drummer tonight, they all want to be at the front of the stage, it seems. So my ticket cost me under $50, and it was 100% worth it. They played good. Most importantly for me is Michael Sweet still sounds good. It's 100% live. Like I said, in the video, you'll see like they put little video screens up. It just kind of breaks up a small stage like that. Now, I think some of it is Starland Ballroom. Starland Ballroom has very good lighting, but I think Striper brings a lot of their own lighting also. So they had good lighting. They do a very cool, I don't know if I would do it like this if I was them, but they do 2 sets, no warm up, come right on stage right at 8 o'clock. They do an hour of a greatest hits set, and then they go back and they go backstage for a half hour, and then they come back out and they do a second set that's about an hour long, and they do all music from, I think it was from 2004 to 2024, so it's all new stuff. So their new record is When We Were Kings. There's a song on it, When We Were Kings, probably my favorite song on the new record. End of Days is also really good. The record came out I think it came out in May 2024. It's called When We Were Kings. If you like the old Striper, it's a little
Okay.
heavier than the old Striper, but it is very good. It's definitely worth a listen. And, these guys are in their 60s. It's like Jackal. Like some of these guys, they're in their 60s and it's like they're in their 30s. Their live show, I mean, they're on a smaller stage, so they're not running around the stage or anything, but they still play well. Michael Sweet still sings well. It is absolutely worth the ticket and worth the time.
Right.
So that's the music I'm listening to. One more time, the new album came out in 2024. It's called When We Were Kings. If you're a fan, check that out. If you're not a fan, check their whole catalog out. You may become a fan. I want to say this before we start our first solo album review. If you are a diehard KISS fan, we may all be listening to these solo albums the wrong way and with the wrong idea. Instead of listening to it like it's a KISS album or listening to it with any expectations musically, if you listen to these albums with the idea of getting to know each member and their personality better, it really changes everything. At least it did for me. No, Peter's solo album is not KISS-like in any way, but it does tell you a lot about him. Everyone knows he's the jazz guy, and that's what we got. We got a jazzy 50s rock and roll record, and with Jeans, we got a scatterbrain record. That's all over the place. And with Paul and Ace, we got KISS-like records. The makeup of the records no longer shock me. Like that? I'll say that one more time.
Say that again.
The makeup of the records no longer shock me. Seriously, I've listened to Peter Criss's solo album a lot. Every time I listen to it, but throughout the years, and every time I listen to it, I hope it gets better. And part of the reason why, and the same thing goes for Gene, you keep listening to it and you keep hoping for KISS records. Well, that's not what these guys did. Peter wasn't trying to make a KISS record. Peter was trying to make a record of music that he liked. If you listen to Peter's record, hoping and praying for a KISS record, you are going to be very, very disappointed. If you listen to Peter's solo album and you're a diehard fan and you're trying to get to understand and know the members, then Peter's solo album is probably the most telling of everyone. That's his personality. That's his music. He made what he liked. Do I love it? No, I don't. But I understand it a little more as of today. And I listened to the record, and as I was listening to the record today, this popped into my head, and I immediately stopped went back to the first song, and re-listened to the entire record. And this may sound crazy. It isn't the first crazy thing I've said on this podcast. It won't
And
be
it won't be the last.
But I listened to the record over, and it was a different listen to me by listening to the record, trying to understand the artist instead of trying to compare the artist with the band that the artist came from. Now, this isn't going to do anything for you when it comes to Paul and Ace, because Paul and Ace made the closest thing to Kiss records, at least in my opinion. But for Peter and Gene's, yeah, I think it fits their personality. I think they did exactly what they wanted to do. Just didn't work out as well as they were hoping it would. All right, so let's get into Peter's outstanding solo album.
All right.
Was released September 18th, 1978. Was recorded between April and July 1978. Was recorded at Electric Lady Studio in New York City and Burbank Sunset Sound in Hollywood. It's 34 minutes and 39 seconds long. Of course, it was released through Casablanca Records, and it was produced by Vinnie Poncia. They released 2 singles, Don't You Let Me Down and You Matter to Me. It blows my mind that I Can't Stop the Rain was not released as a single, but we'll get to that. It did end up, this is kind of misleading. Kids out there that don't know this, if you look at Peter's solo album and you see that it went platinum in the United States, understand that Casablanca Records had this ingenious idea that they were going to ship 1 million of each band member's solo records on day one. So the albums all shipped platinum. That does not mean that they all sold 1 million records. I'm not sure that Peter's record has ever sold 1 million copies. Somebody's probably got 950,000 of them in their garage. But
Right.
album artwork, oh boy. Album artwork was done by Araldo Carragati. Never heard of him. Don't know anything about him. Not going to research him. I like the album cover. I do like the album cover painting. Yeah, that's all I really got for album info and album artwork. Hey, Kiss Army, we work hard on this podcast and try to give you the best content possible. If you like what we do, please consider subscribing to our YouTube channel. Also, the podcast is now on all the podcast platforms, so please like and follow us there and give us some 5-star reviews. It really helps us out.
And while you're there, let us know if there's any Kiss-related subjects you'd like us to cover in future episodes. It helps us produce the content that you enjoy.
Songs.
All righty. So we'll start with the first one. It's called I'm Gonna Love You on side 1. And what I got for that song, it's a very popsy feel. Big time horns and piano collaboration on it. There's definitely a heavy dose of piano and the horns on that. That's what I get from it. Again, like his voice carries you through the song. Like when you re-listen to it again, vocally, I enjoy listening to him. So, but it definitely would not be one of my, tops. But it's also not a song that I sound like you. It's not a song I'd skip, but it's okay.
Once we're done with this episode, that's a song I'm going to skip. It's just not my music.
Right.
I mean, there's some 50s music that I like, but there isn't a lot of it. And it seems to me like Peter went out of his way to make a jazzy 50s record, like I said earlier.
Right.
You know, yeah, I've tried. A record came out in 1978. I would say that I became a Kiss fan 82, 83, around there. Almost immediately, Peter became my favorite member of the band. So I've been listening to this record for over 40 years. It's a struggle. It's a struggle every time.
Well,
And it's like I said before, because I'm looking for Black Diamond,
right.
Baby Driver, Getaway, Strange Ways. You know, wherever you want to, Hard Luck Woman. I, I get my Beth at the end of the record, but other than that, you know, he not to coin our phrase, but he went in the weeds
He
the
did.
entire record.
Well, he wanted to exhibit his artistic abilities, and I guess he was being true to himself. But at the end of the day, I think overall, like I don't think that Kiss fans expected this kind of thing. Like I remember, and I know from watching there was a video I watched before this, and he from '78, and he talks about how you know he thinks it's going to bring them to a new level. Like it was an interesting interview because it's
Was going to bring who to a new level?
Kiss. Like he was talking about like the success of Beth, and that he was talking. It's an interesting. I'm going to see if I can give you the reference of where I saw the video.
I mean, I think
It's a
brought, I think it brought Ace to a new level.
1978 interview on U.S. radio. He says about his album. It shows his versatility, and he thinks it's going to make the Kiss audience bigger overall from the solo albums. I don't really see that. Not if you're identifying your fans for what they listen to, what they like.
You know, I think we talked about this last week on the Hall of Fame episode. I give Kiss a lot of credit for going to unsafe places.
Yeah.
The problem with going to unsafe places is it not always works out. You know,
Right.
there's millions and millions of examples of that throughout history. If you want to forge new territory, not always going to work out.
Well, here's a funny, interesting thing I just thought of too. Like Beth was a big song for them, but I also think Beth made them think and change some philosophies that maybe in some ways they really shouldn't have.
It created Peter being the balladeer,
Right.
which drives me insane.
But but he took that to heart too, because I think his best work is when he does like Black Diamond. Hard Luck Woman is awesome though. Don't get me wrong.
Look, Beth is a great song. I Can't Stop the Rain. I think I Can't Stop the Rain is as good as Beth. I think that's a great song, but just because of that doesn't mean that, you know, we have to write a slow song for Peter to sing when, you know, he's got songs like Baby Driver, Getaway, Black Diamond. Like I just think they you know, when you want to forge new territory, sometimes you do that, like in the case of Beth, and then you literally put Baby in the corner and keep going back to the same thing, which I think in Kiss's case was a mistake. And it's kind of funny because they did that for some things, and then for other things they didn't. I mean, I don't want to get too far off a topic. I say that every week, and we do it anyway. But you make a record like Love Gun, and you follow that up with Dynasty, and then you follow that up with Unmasked, and then you follow that up with The Elder, and then you follow that up with Creatures of the Night. What are you, schizophrenic?
Well, I think that they, obviously they all love the Beatles, and the Beatles were like one of the biggest things for them. And, the Beatles did Sergeant Pepper and Yellow Submarine. And I think that they started believing that they were as big as the Beatles in a way at that particular time. So maybe they felt compelled because, well, the Beatles did it. We should be doing it too, because we're this era's Beatles.
Well, no, but what I'm saying is, so put yourself in all four members' shoes, and Bill Aucoin's and Neil Bogart and whoever else was a decision maker, and you come off a Love Gun. Now, we all know, or we should all know by now, that there were issues within the band. So you have to take that into consideration and everything. But you come off a Love Gun, you make Alive 2, you make Double Platinum, then you go in and you do all four solo records. You come out of all four solo records and you make Dynasty. Okay, I have no issue with that. You tried to forge new territory, tried to do something different. That's great. It didn't work. Right? I mean, it didn't work. Album sales show it didn't work.
Well, yeah, the facts are in the stats.
Right. So then you go and you make Unmasked, and that didn't work. And that doesn't sell well. And you tour, and the tour doesn't do well. So you go to The Elder?
Yeah, they stopped listening to what's going on.
I mean, how can you be that clueless? And if you tell me that, Ace and Peter were drinking and doing drugs, and Peter was getting thrown out of the band, okay. If you tell me that Paul and Gene's egos were out of control, I could go with that too. But there's still Neil Bogart, there's still Bill Aucoin. Like, these people aren't going, hey. They didn't work.
All right. So my favorite on the album is the next song, You Matter to Me. I've liked that. It's my favorite. It is what you call it. It's the only song I remembered from the album as far as like listening to when I was a kid. Good harmonies and chorus. I've always really liked it. And there's really good keyboards throughout the song.
How about that skin flute sound? Just wanted to say I could do without that. Whatever it is, I could do without that.
I love the chorus. The chorus is what really carries the song, though.
I would say that You Matter to Me. It's catchy. It's jazzy. It's I have to say it's Barry Manilow like.
Yeah.
It's a lounge act like.
Yep.
But it is catchy. I can't say that I don't like it, even with that sound in it. I don't know.
Well, this goes back to
that sound comes.
This goes
from.
back to the good take that you had earlier about if you look at it with different eyes and you're not looking at it as Kiss and you're looking at it just as a random artist, and you have to go into looking at it like I'm not looking for a Kiss type of sound. I'm looking for just a jazzy sound. Then yeah, you're gonna have a good take. It's catchy and I've always liked it. I've always liked the chorus on it, but
it stands out in that record. There's no doubt.
So that brings us to Tossin' and Turnin', that remake of the Bobby Lewis song.
Hate it.
Right now, when I listen to that song, I can visually see the Catman dancing in Vegas as a lounge act. A lot of backing vocals, and good short sax solos. But it's definitely, I see him doing his Vegas act here.
I just hate it. It's too over the top for me. But I don't know.
Yeah.
And a lot of it is the backing vocals, I think, for me.
There's a lot on all the songs. There's a lot of backing vocals.
Him and Gene both went crazy with that, it seems.
Yeah.
And it's just for me, it's just too much. And it's 250s, it's 250s rock and roll for me.
Yeah, I mean,
For
I like 50s rock and roll. You know that. I mean, I grew up doo-wop and stuff. Like I listened to all that stuff, but this song wasn't really. I mean, again, it's just a forgettable version. He does it justice. I mean, for the way the original song sounds, he does it justice in his version of it, but it's not really for me.
Yeah.
Which leads you to the next song, "Don't Let Me Down." It's a laid back vibe for me, very slow. I like the chorus, but again, it's a forgettable song to me.
Look, if I picked Gene up and Gene and I went out for some brownies.
If you don't know the brownie story, check the last episode.
After we had 5 or 6 brownies in us, if I put this song on, Gene and I could chill and we could reminisce about the past.
Him with his little head and his big hands, and
yeah. We could talk about Gene's sex tape. You know, we could compare Gene's sex tape with yours.
I'm not biting on that one. I'm not going there. I'm not going there.
Don't You Let Me Down. I guess this says a lot about this record that maybe I've never figured out. Don't You Let Me Down is catchy. Like it is. You matter to me. Don't you let me down. I can't stop the rain. I mean that's 3 good songs out of 10. I don't think when you hear about that record and you hear people talk about it, I don't think I would have expected 3 good. They're not 3 good Kiss songs.
He's enamored with it. So
I'm definitely, I don't know anybody else that's enamored with it.
Right.
But I have a different appreciation for it.
So it's not the kind of sugar Papa likes?
Now that shit I despise.
Yeah, I'm kind of with you on that one. This is so corny a title.
It's just too over the top.
Yeah, I mean, the only thing I like about this song, and I think I mentioned this guy to you before,
is what? When it's over?
No.
Oh.
There is a really good solo. If you make it through the crappy part of the song and you get to the solo, Steve Lukather, one of my favorite guitarists from Toto, a legendary session guitar player, he played on it. And this guy, if you look him up, Steve Lukather from Toto, and you look at his Wikipedia or you look at his references, there's nobody he hasn't played with. He's a very sought after guitar player. Right. And listening to this album isn't an easy thing.
I don't know. It wasn't that hard. Although I have to admit, I listened to about 25 seconds of That's the Kind of Sugar That Papa Likes.
Well, no, because I was referencing that's the next song, Easy Thing.
Oh.
I like his vocals on this. It's way too slow. To me, it's trying to build drama in the song. It just really slow. It could have been better with more of a flow. I thought it was just messy.
Could have been better with more of a flush.
Down the toilet.
You take that kind of sugar that Papa likes with it.
Yeah, I'm picking up what you're putting down.
Look, man, it's disappointing.
Yeah,
it's disappointing. Like that's the best thing I can say of it. Just disappointing.
So we go on to the next one. You got Rock Me Baby, and he's back in Vegas again, doing his lounge act with his big pianos and horns. I really don't like this song. Yeah, this is a skipper. We're skipping that one.
You know what I like about this song? I like the title. Like the title of the song gave me hope.
Well, that's what hurts you though, because then you get in. It's like you get in the door, and you're like, "Where the hell did I go?"
And look, Ken Nardi, if you're by any chance watching this, if you want to redo an album, redo this and try to take the horns and the piano out of it and the skin flute that's playing and You Matter to Me, and like try to do that I don't know, maybe that'll make a difference, maybe it won't, but I'd like to see somebody, we're in 2024, like that guy did amazing work with technology. Maybe somebody could save this record. Not save it, because I'm sure there's 4 people out there that love this record, because there always is. But just make it a rock. Make it more like a Kiss record.
Listen, and
Version.
And the other thing I got to say too is, like, we're obviously diehard Kiss fans. We love Kiss, and you take the good with the bad. So us throwing shade, we're just giving you our honest take on these things, and it's disappointing. Hopefully there's Kiss fans out there that maybe have a total different vibe on it, but
I'm sure there is. I'm sure there's Kiss fans that would argue that this is the best solo record. I'm sure of it, because it's all a matter of taste. Look,
right.
People argue all the time, trying to tell me that pick a shitty band. Victor said it last week. Basically, it comes down to this: you either like good music or bad music. But what everybody considers good music and bad music changes greatly.
Right.
So I'm sure there's people that love this record and think Peter Criss is a genius.
That's a good point.
I'd like to meet one of them, because I haven't yet, but I'm sure they're out there.
Well, and the other thing too, especially, I'm not a super seasoned musician, but I'm a musician. Jazz is difficult stuff. And if you're a jazz fan, then you're going to definitely appreciate this a lot more than the average Kiss fan, I think.
Yeah. Okay. You just went above my pay grade.
I just try to throw them a bone. That's all. All right. Now, Kiss the Girl Goodbye is the next one. My take on it is it's very, very Beatles centric.
Yeah.
I like the vocals. It's actually funny because I do kind of like it. It shows the vocal range without the raspy voice, nice acoustic guitar intro throughout and guitar throughout. But I think in this song is a hidden thing with his voice. Like this song to me shows the vocal range a lot from him.
This is why I like you taking the lead on the song by song reviews, because sometimes I can just say, yeah, I agree. I do, seriously, I do. It reminds me of the Beatles. Actually, when I listened to it today, which is probably the 6th or 7th time I've listened to the entire record in the last week. But when I listened to it today, it struck me, oh shit, Gene's not the only one that tried to shake up his inner Beatle.
If you go to the next song, you got Hooked on Rock and Roll. He's back in the lounge, in the Vegas lounge, horns and heavy piano. Again, a forgettable song. I actually listened to this one a couple times trying to like it. Did I say I was trying to like it? I just want to make sure.
You did.
Okay. Just making sure I let you know that.
Yeah. Yeah, I have to admit.
Skip.
about 30 seconds, and I just couldn't take it anymore. For anybody that is watching or listening to this, whether it's on YouTube or it's on Spotify or Apple Music or wherever else we're located currently, if anybody has a different take on this record, if anybody loves this record, I would absolutely love to hear from you. There's no ignorance. We're not going to argue.
Right.
I just would love to hear someone's take on this record that can honestly, with a straight face, tell me that they love That's the Kind of Sugar That Papa Likes. No, I'm being serious.
I got you.
Because
I got you.
I'm 100% sure that there are people out there that think that this is the greatest artistry that Kiss has ever created. Look, I've been a Kiss fan long enough. I'm old enough. I've watched enough interviews, listened to enough interviews, done all that, that there's a different take from different people. I read a comment last week of a Kiss fan that commented on one of our videos that said that his favorite album is Hot in the Shade. Now, Hot in the Shade doesn't even make my top 20. But that's interesting to me. I mean,
Well,
that
hey,
guy
listen,
made that comment, and I haven't done it yet, but probably tomorrow I'm going to sit down and listen to Hot in the Shade just because of what that guy said. You know, the first thing I did was go, oh, I hope he's deaf. And it is. And then I said to myself, no, you know, maybe I should re-listen to this because, like, maybe he's onto something. I don't think he is, but I'm 100% sure that somebody out there thinks that Peter Criss's solo album is like that guy thinks Hot in the Shade is.
ultimately, one thing we definitely know, Kiss retired, right? And we know that there's a lot of us out there. There's different eras, but there's a lot of us out there that have a lot of fun memories with this band. So I want to hear some of the memories. I want to see some of the concerts you went to, some of the crazy shit you've seen at a concert, some of the interviews or some of the things you've heard about Gene Simmons and Ace Frehley and stuff that we don't know. You know what I mean? So like the stories and stuff, that's part of the coolness of this. So,
and look, whether it's us or it's Three Sides of the Coin or it's Signals from Mars, the other hundreds of podcasts and YouTube channels that are out there, we are trying to help keep the fandom alive. Yes, Kiss got old.
Yep.
Yes, Kiss retired. But it does not mean the fans aren't going to retire. The fandom doesn't retire. I'm 50 years old. I'm the same geeky Kiss fan also that I was when I was 8, 9, and 10 years old.
Right. And someday I'm going to be 50 and I'm going to feel the same way.
Yeah. Just like listening to Peter Criss's solo album today after thinking, hey, this is Peter's personality. This is how you get to know the band member better. Yeah. Even though I'm not crazy about the record, I have a different kind of appreciation for his artistry.
Right.
I still don't like it, but I got a different appreciation for it.
Right.
So I the differing opinions I think are my favorite.
Yeah,
so
me too.
Until they start telling me that I'm an asshat, and then I won't like it. But
I Can't Stop the Rain. Again, I don't think you're going to care for my take too much, but I'm not a big fan of the song. I think the arrangement is not really that good in my opinion. I do like the chorus because I like Peter's vocal, but overall, I think the arrangement kind of stalls too much throughout the song. But again, Peter's voice can carry any song, in my opinion. He is, like you brought up, that he has the best voice in the band, and I've always kind of thought Paul did. Paul's kind of two-dimensional. Peter has got a lot more depth to his vocals, and again, that's my takeaway from the album. Like, it's not, there's a lot of stuff that's forgettable on this, but vocally he did some different things. Like, I've always looked at him kind of like the Rod Stewart, right? The raspiness, other than the Hard Luck Woman. On this album, he shows you some depth in a lot of different ways without the raspiness, which shows how, and that's why I think it's an untapped resource that maybe he didn't even realize in a rock sense from the raspiness.
I think he probably realized it. And this is probably unfair to say, but I just picture the rest of them dismissing him.
Yeah, I could see that.
And that might be unfair because we weren't there. And of course, Peter and Ace play the victim very well. Incredibly well.
Well, you know what? It's easy to play the victim too when you're checked out a lot. Like, it's one thing if all four of them were equally committed. They weren't partying, they were limited partying, but the drive was the same at all four, which is impossible. But the drive was all the same. Then each one of them, you wouldn't have like a Gene and Paul dominating the decision making, because all four of them would be there and be, like, no, it ain't going to be that way. Well, if you're stoned or if you're drugged out and you don't show up for a session, or you don't show up for a jam session, whatever, you're losing that opportunity to have a say.
That's exactly what it is. I wish we could get in a hot tub time machine and go back and do it all over again just to see what differences could have happened.
You know what? Maybe we write a screenplay and we just create it and make like a movie out of it or something.
Oh, you mean like Detroit Rock City or like Kiss Meets the Phantom of the Park? Which one?
Well, we'll do Kiss Meets the Phantom
of Detroit Rock City. I Can't Stop the Rain. It's probably my favorite song on the record. I guess to me, it's the cross between Beth and Hard Luck Woman. It comes across as a Beth knockoff, but I like it. It's a good Beth knockoff. To me, it is. It blows my mind that they did not release it as a single, because I think, and this goes along with the opinions, that, somebody's going to tell us that Peter Criss's solo album was the best solo album, even though I think it's the least best solo album. But somebody's going to tell us that it's the best solo album, and I think I Can't Stop the Rain should have been the first single, and I think it probably would have went somewhere, and it might have helped Peter's solo album out, to me.
I know they did the best of the solo albums. Do you want to put a little teaser out there about how we are going to make our own album out of the best songs from the solo albums when we're done?
I don't have to.
Why?
Because you just did.
Oh.
Look, to wrap up the entire episode, Peter's solo album as a KISS-Centric solo album is a complete and total disappointment. It is, if you put it, to take a word from Star Wars lore, if you place Peter's solo album in the KISS canon, it is, in my opinion, the worst record that is labeled with the KISS insignia. My opinion.
Gene's is close to that with the Elder too, but I think I definitely don't disagree with you too much on there.
I think Peter's solo album as a KISS-Centric
right
album is the worst of the bunch.
Well, here's another thing too, that if you think about it, I mean, I'm 8 years old when this came out, and you're what, 4, 3?
I'm 4.
Right. So honestly, I think it probably pissed off a lot of the base and core group of the KISS fans that they had. So if you're older than us and you're seeing this, I definitely want to see the take on that, because I would think the core KISS fans were like, "What the hell are you guys doing? You brought us in, and now you're giving us this."
If I was old enough in 1978, let's say if I was 14, 15 years old in 1978, and I went out on September 18th and I bought all 4 solo albums. If I started with Peter's, moved on to Gene's, then went to Paul's, and then went to Ace's, at the end of my day, I would have been pretty happy. If I started with Paul's, then went to Ace's, then went to Gene's, and then went to Peter's, if I had a bedroom on the second floor, I would have probably jumped out of the window. Will I venture to Peter's solo album and listen to You Matter to Me, Don't You Let Me Down, and I Can't Stop the Rain? Yeah, maybe twice a year.
Well, here's the thing: as a 15-year-old, are you going to be looking at Peter's solo album as he's just expressing his artistic expression?
Until today, I had never thought about, hey, this is his personal artistry, but all of Paul Stanley's songs and all of Ace Frehley's songs on both of their solo albums all could be on KISS record. Every single one of them.
Yeah, I agree with that.
Maybe I listened to Peter Criss's solo album. Well, I know every time I listen to it, I'm hopeful that something's going to be different. And it hasn't changed yet. Well, KISS Army, we've done it again. For the millions and millions of people that are out there, I hope you like our new KISS podcast studio with all our cool stuff. Anybody that ever wants to come over and play Vinnie Vincent's guitar, just drop a comment and we'll set up a time for you to come over, play Vinnie's guitar, play a couple games on the pinball machine. With all that being said, until next week, remember, if it's too loud, you are too old. Peace out.